Now at 5, RTV6 working for you tonight on two big stories we've been following all day. First, 2 young children tragically murdered. The suspect, their own mother.
I can't imagine the pain and the grief that these families are experiencing. Please keep these families in your thoughts and prayers.
Then, new details just coming in on a big drug raid across Indianapolis. Dozens of homes searched, police looking to take meth off the streets.
I'm grateful that the police are becoming more aggressive. We've got too many kids that are just, so troubled because of drugs.
Our live team coverage on each story starts now.
From the station working for you, this is RTV6 News at 5.
And we begin tonight with that heartbreaking news. These 2 young children murdered in their Montgomery County home. The prime suspect, their own mother, who we just learned will be charged with murder once she is out of the hospital. RTV6 has been following this story since it first broke on air and online. We have complete team coverage for you tonight, beginning with Rafael Sanchez, who is anchoring our coverage tonight in Montgomery County. Rafael.
Melissa, I have to tell you that people are simply in disbelief. They just feel sick as they hear these details. The sheriff now telling me that Brandy Worley will face 2 counts of murder when she shows up here behind me at the Montgomery County Courthouse once she is released from the hospital. In the town of Darlington, people are just heartbroken, and this is why. These 2 young children killed this morning. I'm talking about 7-year-old Tyler and his 3-year-old sister Charlie. 7-year-old Tyler, a first grader. His sister Charlie, 3 years old, loved going to the library often to read with her mother, I'm told by the grandmother. I'm also told by family members that the father loved reading to his children and also enjoyed making s'mores in their backyard home. In fact, they did it just this past Halloween. Now, the kid's dad was sleeping at the time when his wife called 911. We're talking about Brandy Worley. She told police that she'd killed the children this morning. We also spoke today to neighbor Cecil Hayworth, and he says he will miss the kids that often stop by his home to get a popsicle. Our condolences on the loss here in your community. You knew these 2 kids, Tyler and Charlie. How did you know them?
They come over here every morning to get popsicles.
Every morning?
Every morning, and get a hug and kiss off both of them every morning during the summer. I tell you, it broke our heart when we found out about it this morning.
We should put out that Cecil wanted to share popsicles with everyone in his neighborhood. He has a refrigerator full of popsicles, and he's distraught because now his 2 best buddies are gone. When we got here to Montgomery County, we began looking for new information, new details for you. What we learned is that paperwork that was filed here at this courthouse may have led to that tragic situation in Darlington. My colleague, Mike Pelton, was the first to find those documents. He joins us live now with the very latest. Mike, what can you tell us now at 5?
Well, Raphael, court records show that Brandy Worley and her husband married back in 2009. Her husband, though, citing a breakdown in the marriage, filed for divorce just yesterday in Montgomery County Superior Court. And just the court filing alone shocked friends and neighbors who described the Worley family as happy, or so it seemed. A family friend tells me Brandy Worley seemed like a very good mother and often watched his own kids as well. The killings are rattling the small town of Darlington, a town where you find friends amongst neighbors. We spoke with a couple of them, as well as a church pastor who says that community needs to heal.
Anytime I would talk to them, they would be extremely nice, talk back to me. I mean, heck, I even saw the kids on Halloween, they were out running around with their grandma.
I'm certain that, this community will do that. We appreciate the prayers of those outside the community. And, this isn't a good thing for anybody to have to, for any town, whether you're a large city that sees this happen on a regular basis or someone like us.
And in the parents' divorce case, a preliminary hearing was scheduled for next month, although investigators to this point have not released an official motive for the killings. Now, just a quick note, Raphael, that just driving around the county, you hear a lot of people talking about this case. Over at a Crawfordsville cafe, we heard a handful of people gathered around a table talking in disbelief that a case like this could happen here. It just goes to show you how much this has rattled the small community here in Montgomery County. Raphael.
Mike, you are so right. We're beginning to see the ripple effects of something like this, not only here, but throughout our community. In fact, one of the places that is really feeling the effect right now is the North Montgomery schools. That is where 7-year-old Tyler went to school. That was his second home. And today we have a statement from that school system, and it reads in part like this: any loss can bring to the surface past feelings of grief. Even if students do not know the children involved in the situation, it can bring up past feelings, grief, sadness, anger. We know that grief is ongoing and does not affect any two people in exactly the same way. Please be extra vigilant and attentive to students' needs. Do not leave grieving children alone. We will do the same here at school. The school is asking all parents tonight to make sure that their kids, if they have bad dreams, for example, or if they become disruptive, or if they become shyer than normal, to have a discussion with them. You know, talking about death is one of those difficult discussions. How does one begin that discussion? Coming up all new on the news at 5:30, we have an expert that will be in-house to help us all with that discussion and how to talk to children tonight. We are live in Montgomery County. Rafael Sanchez, RTV6.
Raphael, such a heartbreaking story. Thank you. Let's get you now to our team coverage on that other major story today. Local and federal law enforcement teaming up in a major drug raid across Indianapolis. Here you can see some of the many scenes today. Listen to these numbers. More than 30 homes searched, more than 40 suspects arrested, plus 19 pounds of meth and $55,000 seized. Our team coverage will continue tonight, anchored by RTV6's Jason Fagner. Jason.
Good evening, Melissa. Good evening, everyone. Nationwide attention on this right now, as you referenced there, just because of the scope and magnitude of it. A massive police effort out here. Federal, state, local law enforcement officers and agents involved. 41 people now arrested, more than 700 officers and agents taking part in all of this today, including one of these here on the west side, just behind me, down Walton Street. Now, here's a look at the locations that police hit today. In all, 53 warrants were issued, 12 fugitives tonight, still on the run right now as Operation Glass Houses comes crashing down across our community. Now, this was the scene here on the west side between Indy and Avon, just south of Rockville. Neighbors here surprised to see such a heavy police presence, not typical in this neighborhood. Agents executing that warrant here, making one arrest, counting money in all. Police tonight say that they have taken 85 grand in drug cash off the streets, 94 illegal guns, in addition to all that meth, the cocaine, the heroin you talked about. As for those arrested, the U.S. Attorney says these weren't just drug users, but much worse.
The defendants who were indicted and arrested today were not mere users or possessors of drugs. Make no mistake about it, this was an organization, an enterprise that was in the business of selling drugs.
Now, while the focus of today's activity was on the west and southwest side, the lead agent of the FBI made it a point to specifically point out the work of the Carmel Police Department, Fishers Police Department, Noblesville Police Department, really a community-wide effort to get to this point. Let's continue our team coverage now with Call 6 Investigates Paris Lubell. Paris, you've got a lot more on this, and this was not an investigation that started overnight.
That's right, Jason. The investigation actually started in February and all leading to today. Now that the raids are over, people in this neighborhood and other neighborhoods throughout the city never knew and never expected to have a meth house nearby. Now, it's after 5 o'clock right now, and people are just getting home from work, walking their dogs, and enjoying the weather. But they say they're still shocked to hear the FBI was raiding a home just 1 block down the road. Now, we spoke to Sandra Mudd just a little while ago. She told us she's been living in the neighborhood for her entire life. She actually took the home over from her parents, her kids in it, and tonight she's still stunned.
I read about it, I hear about it, and you thought at one time that the drug problem was just kind of diminishing, but it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. It is scary. I hate it. I hate it for the neighborhood. I'm sure that a lot of people around here don't even know it happened.
Paris, thanks so much. Very important to note in all of this, with 700 officers and agents involved, all those arrests so far, more to come, no one was hurt today. No shots were fired out here. Also important to note that some Indiana communities actually are dealing with fewer meth labs, in part because it is easier and cheaper to simply bring meth up from Mexico here to Indiana. Now, our digital team, hard at work behind the scenes, back in our newsroom right now. They are tracking every meth lab raid across the entire state, virtually now over the past decade there. We've made it easy for you to check out your community tonight. Zero in on the map and specifics on all those cases right now, once again, through the RTV6 app. Now, even if you don't live in any of the communities where any of these raids took place today, Operation Glass Houses still making you safer tonight. We've got a lot more on that, plus the actual pipeline of these drugs into Indiana. Paris Lubell working his sources as well. We'll bring it all to you right here on the news at 6. For now, though, Melissa, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
Jason, thank you. RTV6 following even more breaking news right now. IMPD on the scene of a shooting on Indy's northeast side. Candace Avila is at the live desk with the latest. Candace.
Well, Melissa, we're told the person was shot at East 38th Street and Adams, just a few blocks west of North Sherman. The victim hit in the stomach. We're told the person is still alive. No word on how bad the injury is or who pulled the trigger. Our Chance Walser is heading to the scene right now, and we will check in with him in just a few minutes. And we've just got word moments ago that a crash causing major backups on the northeast side has been cleared. So let's take a look right now from our traffic camera. Traffic starting to flow again on I-465 southbound on near the East 56th Street Shadeland Road exit. Just a short time ago, a two-car crash had shut down 3 lanes of the interstate. But good news, as you can see, those lanes are now open once again. Also, just in, a judge ruling the late Bobby Christina Brown's partner, Nick Gordon, must pay $36 million in a wrongful death case. Investigators say Gordon was in their Atlanta townhome in January of 2015 when Christina was found face down and unresponsive in a bathtub. The death drew headlines for the similarity to the 2012 death of her mother, Whitney Houston. And that's the latest from the live desk. Melissa, back to you.
Candace, thank you. RTV6 working for you tonight. The case of a 5-year-old girl who lost her leg to flesh-eating bacteria. Now, her family is blaming sewage problems at the apartment complex where they live, and they are demanding the complex be held accountable. Our Call 6 Investigates Kara Kenny is on the case, and she is digging for answers. Kara, what are you learning?
Well, Melissa, as a renter, you have the right to a clean and safe place to live. But according to this lawsuit filed today by a Southside mom, her apartment complex cost her daughter her leg and almost her life.
Lorraine Lyles doesn't want us to show you her 5-year-old daughter, Jamila, saying she's been through enough. Back in September, Jamila was playing on the apartment's playground when she fell, scraping her leg. Within days, Jamila could barely walk.
Jamila's leg was really swollen, and it was purple and blue, and I was draining blood all down her leg.
Lorraine rushed her little girl to the ER. Doctors were able to save Jamila, but not her leg. She spent a month at Riley Hospital.
She's coping very well for herself.
Riley staff gave her this doll with an amputated leg. Lorraine contacted attorneys, and Thursday she filed suit against the apartment complex, alleging they were negligent and knew about raw sewage on the playground and failed to clean it up. Call 6 Investigates went looking for Daniel, the property manager, Thursday afternoon.
I left him a message earlier this morning, but so you don't know anything about the lawsuit?
No, he would be the one you'd want to talk to about that.
Earlier this month, Call 6 Investigates was out at Bradford Lake when the health department issued an emergency order to the apartment complex for this raw sewage. The health department says they did clean that up within 24 hours. Lorraine's attorneys say they have to do something before someone else gets hurt.
It was preventable. They had the knowledge. They received the payments for rent. They had the responsibility to make sure these kids were safe, and they didn't do it.
As for Lorraine, she knows it will be a long road ahead with Jamila and her other kids, but hopes her lawsuit will prompt others to speak up about their landlords.
So remember, you have rights as a renter to a clean and safe place to live. You have the right to call the health department. You have the right to fight back in court, but you do not have the right to withhold rent while you're still living there. Melissa?
Kara, thank you. New tonight, he was arrested following that anti-Donald Trump protest on Saturday night, accused of attacking a Metro police officer. But now, for the first time, he is telling his side of the story, and he is only telling it to RTV6. Derek Thomas has that tonight.
We saw anti-Trump protesters in the street, but today we saw one in court. 22-year-old Cody Clark is charged with a felony. This is Clark leaving the courtroom. The evening of the protest, he allegedly ignored police orders to stop running. According to the probable cause affidavit, he struck an officer in a forceful and violent manner who was attempting to tackle him. Eventually, police used a pepper ball launcher to slow him down and place him in handcuffs. He is free on bond and free to continue his discontent with the Trump presidency.
Yes, he's involved in racism, xenophobia, bigotry, misogyny. I mean, literally any type of thing other than being a white male, he's emboldened to be against.
It is unclear what Clark's defense will be in the charges against him, but our legal expert says post-presidential election dissent is not unusual.
I think people have to remember that this is pretty mild when you look back at the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860, when upon his election and before his inauguration, 11 states seceded from the Union. Those were some people who were very upset over the election results. So that kind of fervor by the public and that kind of concern is to be expected.
Clark is a carpenter by trade, but he clearly does not want to build a relationship with the president-elect.
Don't be president. Don't be a fascist.
Clark told the judge he will hire his own attorney, but just to make sure, a review of counsel hearing is set for December 15th. Derek Thomas, RTV6.
And Clark also said he did not rule out participating in future protests, but he says he cannot predict the future. 6 other protesters also facing criminal charges tonight. New developments in the transition to Donald Trump as president. Vice President-elect Mike Pence meeting with top lawmakers from both parties on Capitol Hill today. Pence spent more than a decade in Congress as a representative. He said today relationships formed during those years will be helpful moving forward. Among the meetings today include one with House Democratic Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, both describing it as a respectful conversation.
Beginning to discuss areas that we might move forward on together. And I think that's what the American people want us to do, is find ways to revive our economy, improve American lives, enhance the security of this nation.
House Speaker Paul Ryan saying today he supports Donald Trump's stance that lawmakers need term limits. However, he never said that he would support a measure in Congress to create those. New concerns are being raised about a possible conflict of interest involving Donald Trump, and they involve his new D.C. hotel just blocks from the White House. After Trump is sworn in, he would technically be landlord and tenant of the property, which is technically being leased to him. Federal law prohibits these kinds of circumstances. Now, Trump says he will hand over all of his businesses to his children, but some experts say that won't be enough because Trump's signature is on the lease. They say the only way to solve this is for the Fed to break the lease, meaning they would have to pay Trump more than $40 million. New tonight, you can count one person out of the next presidential race already. Virginia Senator Tim Kaine says today that he will run for re-election to the Senate in 2018. But the running mate for Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton says he will not make a run for the presidency in 2020. As a member of the Senate's Democratic minority, Kaine says he will work as a check on the power of President-elect Donald Trump.
Now, your Storm Team 6 forecast from RTV6 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory.
I'm hiding something from you, but you already know. At least you've already felt the warmth. We hit 74 today in Indianapolis. That's not the warmest temperature in central Indiana. How about that? We'll be mild again tomorrow, but it doesn't last for all that long. We'll get to that in a second. Thank the wind out of the south, which will stay out of the south for the next 24 hours. But when it changes, it will deliver tumbling temperatures, and we'll be much colder through the weekend into the early part of next week. Let's shop around a little bit. Temperatures have cooled into the upper 60s to the north. Gas City's at 68. Frankfort and Clinton County hanging on to 71 degrees. Look at this, 75 temperature right now in Bedford, 74 in Bloomington. But our hours are numbered. So where is the cold air right now, Kyle?
Yeah, Kevin, there is a wave sweeping the nation. It is a cold wave right now. Check out Kansas City, 76. But as we go back to the west, you see all all that blue. We've got temperatures in the 20s and 30s. Denver coming in at 31 degrees. Let's take you there where they're actually seeing some snow. This is the view of City Park from our sister station there in Denver. Yesterday they had a record high of 80 degrees. Today they've got some snow on the ground. So a little bit of a shock to the system. And here's our temperature transition. One more mild day as we go into our Friday, 70 degrees. Evan, once we get into the weekend, we're going to need a big wardrobe change. A high of just 41 Saturday.
And so everybody scramble, find the heavier coat, and you'll get to use it for several days, not just bring it out for a day or two. Temperatures out ahead of that cold front that Kyle just showed you that's going to bring the dramatic temperature change. We're still mild. We're at 70. Showers and thunder showers will impact your Friday night plans. Some of you headed to big high school football games. The irony of that, these are the last games before going inside to play for state championships. 4 o'clock tomorrow, some showers and an isolated thunderstorm along the Wabash River. By the time we get to 7 o'clock, right through central Indiana, pushing into the eastern half of the state between 8 and 9, and still some lingering showers at 11. So the impact will be felt. Thunderstorms may delay some of the games because of lightning, nearby lightning, even if it's not directly at the site. Temperatures falling through the games, 54 by the time we get to 10 o'clock. There's your weekend temperatures. Now keep in mind, these are high temperatures. We're not used to that. We're used to our lows being around 40 degrees instead of the high. Early next week, are you traveling? Anywhere in the Midwest, there will be no travel problems other than some rain. Not expecting any snow. One caveat to that, could be some lake effect snow if you're in western Michigan traveling up there.
But other than that, we are clear. So.
Yes, enjoy.
All right, good news there. Thank you, Kevin. Coming up, how would you like to take a crack at this world record? You have to see this video, especially if you like your tea and biscuits. An incredible jump. It is just ahead. And the big finale is tonight. We get the scoop on who might be under the sheet on how to get away with murder as we sit down with Viola Davis. That's right. That's coming up next on RTV6 News at 5. New tonight, the Cincinnati Zoo could face fines or other penalties, all because of the controversy over the killing of the gorilla named Harambe. You remember the story. Police shot the gorilla Harambe after a 3-year-old boy slipped into Harambe's enclosure in May. Today, federal inspectors said the zoo's barrier to keep the public separate from the gorilla was not in compliance with standards for housing primates. The government says the zoo quickly improved the barrier after the gorilla's death. New video tonight shows a bungee jump for the record books. From the jumper's point of view, the 24-year-old man setting the record in England for the highest ever bungee dunk. You see it there, jumping 230 feet to dunk a biscuit, yes, a biscuit, into a cup of tea. All of that caught on camera from the jumper's helmet and several people on the ground. I could not ever do that. This record likely gonna stand for a while, unless Kevin wants to compete. Well, happening tonight, it's the big night for How to Get Away with Murder fans. We finally learn who is under the sheet. We had the chance to talk with star Viola Davis on the set. We wanted to hear her reaction when she read the script for tonight's huge winter finale.
It was shock, it was surprise, it was devastation. I mean, for us, it's, well, you know what, for us, you know, behind the scenes, because we're just all a family now of actors, you know, it probably will play out the same way for the audience. It's going to be a loss. I think there's not one character that people haven't been invested in at some point.
Ooh, it is gonna be good. You can catch the winter finale of How to Get Away with Murder tonight on 10 p.m. right here on RTV6. A small town coming to grips with tragedy tonight, the horrific murder of 2 kids. Coming up, we'll go back to Montgomery County for the latest. Plus, we will talk with an expert on how to deal with this awful story. Today is Great American Smokeout Day, and one group is using the day to push for a big tax increase on cigarettes. This woman facing several charges after doctors found shocking injuries to her grandmother. The unbelievable accusation against the granddaughter. That's coming up. You're watching RTV6 News at 5.